This morning we find ourselves in the letter of James. The letter takes its name from the attribution of authorship at the beginning of the letter, like most letters in the Bible. James 1:1 says, James, a servant of God in the Lord Christ Jesus, to the 12 tribes in the dispersion, greetings. Who is James? Some believe that the author of the letter is the brother of Jesus, who was head of the church in Jerusalem. The Jewish annotated New Testament lets us know that if that attribution is correct, then the letter would have had to have been written before 62 CE, when James was executed, when he was martyred. Many scholars believe, however, that James, the brother of Jesus, is not the author because of the excellent Greek of the text. It would, they argue, be unlikely that a guy from rural Galilee would be able to write in such incredible prose in Greek, even if he had learned the language. Defenders have argued that the letter incorporates genuine material from James, so perhaps a sermon was reworked by one of his followers who was trained in Greek rhetoric. Someone writing in the name of another church figure in the early days is not uncommon. As for the address to the 12 tribes in the dispersion, this suggests that those receiving the letter identified with the people of Israel and could have been Jewish, but were probably part of the new Christian community, and it signifies both its indebtedness to Israel and its members' need to return from spiritual wandering. We know this as the letter of James, but it's actually often read as a sermon or a piece of wisdom literature. Every generous act of giving with every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow due to change. In fulfillment of his own purpose, he gave us birth by the word of truth, so that we would become a kind of first fruits of his creatures. Fred Craddock was an ordained Disciples of Christ preacher, and he was known around the world for his down-to-earth, his humble sermons. At one time later in his life, Craddock was quoted as saying, "If I had to do it all over again, I would preach more about God." If you've ever heard a sermon by Fred Craddock, or if you've ever read one, you think, how is that possible? Fred Craddock's sermons always zoomed in on God, but that was Fred Craddock in his own words. And so maybe he said it because of verses like James 1:17 through 18, and realized that God is so mighty, and no matter how many words we use to talk about God, there'll never be enough. Father of lights, James 1:17 says, this is a description of God. God of light equals God of divine power. Every generous act of giving with every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow due to change. Everything that is good is created and given by God. God has no variation, there is no change. This is a reminder that God doesn't change, people change. God has always been and always will be faithful to God's people. In fulfillment of his own purpose, he gave us birth by the word of truth, so that we would become a kind of first fruits of his creatures. We are birthed from God's truth, a reminder that we are created by God, that we did not create ourselves as much as we would like to think that we have. This is a reminder that God is the creator. Also, this verse may have to do with the rebirth of Christians by the word of the gospel. Verses 19 to 27 are under the heading of hearing and doing the word, hence today's sermon title. You must understand this, my beloved. Let everyone be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger, for your anger does not produce God's righteousness. Therefore rid yourselves of all sordidness and rank growth of wickedness, and welcome with meekness the implanted word that has power to save your souls. This letter is implanting wisdom to those who hear it and who read it. James doesn't want contention to fracture a community of believers, which means he's probably seen it before. Listen more than you speak. Be slow to anger. It doesn't say that we'll never be angry or that we never should be angry. It says be slow to anger. That anger can be explosive and if not dealt with correctly, can counteract the mission of the realm of God. The letter goes on to tell people that they must rid themselves of sordidness and wickedness. Make sure that you're acting in honorable ways, in the ways in which God has called you to live, and welcome with meekness the implanted word that has power to save your souls. Accept with gentleness and humility the gospel, something that sometimes is hard to do. But accept it with gentleness and humility, and notice how it calls us to live and be humble in what has taken place in the life, the ministry, the death, and the resurrection of Jesus the Christ. But be doers of the word and not merely hearers who deceive themselves. For if any are hearers of the word and not doers, they are like those who look at themselves in a mirror. For they look at themselves and on going away immediately forget what they look like. For those who look into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and persevere, being not hearers who forget, but doers who act, they will be blessed in their doing. Earlier we're told that we should be listeners first and be slow to speak and slow to anger. This section of the scripture is telling us not only is it important to listen, but as Sharon pointed out to the kids, it's important to do. Don't be slow to do things. Be slow to anger and be slow to speak, but don't be slow to do. Don't be slow to be the doers of the word, to be the ones who live out the gospel and share it with others. It's easy to hear the gospel and read it and say, oh yeah, sure, I do that. I hear that. That's fine. Definitely living that out. And we never get up out of the pew or out of our lazy boy or off of our couch and actually do anything. It's easy to have it, as my mother used to accuse me of, have it go in one ear and come out the other. Though anyone who has ear issues, like I have had, might find that hilarious. So when my mother says things now, I always say, what? Verse 22 says that people who are not doers, but are those who only hear the word, deceive themselves. And they're like people who look at themselves in the mirror, and once they're gone away from the mirror, they forgot what they look like. We could all probably put our hands up if I asked if we knew anyone who stares at a mirror image of themselves, as if they might forget what they look like. Why is Nancy pointing at JC? I don't know. It might just be a hand spasm. My sisters, when they were younger, there you go. I hope they never see this sermon or hear it. My sisters would look at themselves when they were getting ready as if they would forget what they were going to look like when they went out. So this letter is saying, don't be that for all eternity. Don't stare at yourself when there are other things, other people to help. And they're called deceivers, but I would add that they deceive other people as well with their spiritual forgetfulness. Verse 25 says that those who look into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and persevere, being not hearers who forget, but doers who act, they will be blessed in their doing. This will be expanded later on in the letter in James 2:26, and we all probably could quote it, and it says, for just as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is also dead. those who look into the perfect law of God, those who look into the law of liberty. And writing in the commentary, Feasting on the Word, Episcopal priest Aaron Yehudi says, the law of liberty engenders freedom. As the Israelites came out of slavery, they were a motley, mixed, and diverse people who needed Torah, who needed household rules to form them into the people of God. Rules allow rugby players to enjoy the game thoroughly. Without rules, there would be bloody mayhem. And if you know anything about rugby, you know this to be true, because it's already a bloody, violent game. But imagine if there were no rules. James does not want his hearers to forget that looking into the law of liberty provides rules for neighborly love. The perfect law matures faith and covenantal love in everyday interactions. The hearer-doer is called to look intently into the Word and to persist in loving action. Look intently into the law enhances memory. If any think they are religious and do not bridle their tongues but deceive their hearts, their religion is worthless. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this: to care for orphans and widows in their distress and to keep oneself unstained by the world. The letter of James calls us to realize that there's a difference between worthwhile and worthless religious morality. Worthwhile and worthless religious morality. Pure religion is one that follows what God wants from us and for us. To care for the orphans, to care for the widows, to care for anyone else who needs our help, and to make sure we're not obsessed by the world and its possessions, those materialistic things. That we should be focused on helping others by living out the gospel that we've heard and we've read. That instead of being focused on what we have, we're focused on God and what God can do and what we can do with God. There's a popular sermon illustration online that gives an example of a man rationalizing away doing. It states there was a man who began cutting grass on a scorching Saturday. He had a lot of lawn. Sweating, he thought how good a tall glass of lemonade would taste. And so he got off his mower and he went inside into the air conditioning, poured an oversized glass, and settled in to his big, oversized easy chair. He decided to look up the word weed in the dictionary and found that it said any plant growing where it's not wanted. The man went back outside, looked at his lawn, and decided that every blade was exactly where he wanted it, and went back in. That's hearing and reading, but not doing. It's easy for us to rationalize away all kinds of things, the doing part of everything, including our own faith lives. I can't help today, but maybe tomorrow. Differing from the illustration of the guy who's okay with the grass and the weeds where they are, there's the story of Rodney Smith Jr. and the Raising Men Lawn Care Service. I found out about this guy on Instagram and started following him, and you'll see why in a moment. The service was started by Smith in Huntsville, Alabama. The website says, Raising Men Lawn Care Service is the union of an ordinary yard maintenance service and the commitment to establish an inspiring program to keep our youth, boys and girls, on a positive path while learning and understanding their value in society. The lawn service provides free lawn care to our elders, those who are disabled, single mothers, our veterans, and people who do not have the time, resources, and/or money to manicure their lawns. The organization also mentors youth. Doing. What was envisioned by one man has become an international thing, with currently 8 chapters of the organization throughout the U.S. and several other countries taking part. And the organization has what it calls the 50-yard challenge. So I'm assuming that the founder is probably a football fan. You send photos into the Instagram and Facebook pages of the organization, and they would simply write, "My name is," and I accept the 50-yard challenge. And then their photo gets posted on social media as they join the challenge, and they accept to join, and they say, "I will mow 50 lawns for people who need that help without receiving anything from them." There's a t-shirt system for the challenge, so the youth can wear their shirts while they earn their 50 yards mowed while they're working for their neighbors, so people can know what they're doing. And in the fall and the winter, they are challenged to help bag leaves and shovel snow, because that also counts. If you live in Alaska, you might not have a lot of yards to mow most of the year, but you might have a lot of snow to shovel. And so those count as part of the challenge as well. 10 lawns gets a youth an orange shirt, 20 lawns gets them a green shirt, 30 a blue shirt, 40 a red shirt. Mowing 50 lawns gets them a black shirt and a new lawnmower, weed eater, and blower by the help of other organizations and donations, so they continue to help the neighbors they've already helped, and so that they can help new people. A great example of hearing and doing. Be doers of the word and not just hearers. The letter of James tells us that. The whole gospel tells us that. We know that this letter is not telling us something false. We know that God has always called us to be doers of the word. No matter what book we open in the Bible, whether it's in the First Testament, the Second Testament, the Apocrypha, those Jewish writings that were not included, no matter what you read from the people of God, you will always see something that says to be doers of the word. Without the movement of God, without our actions, our faith would be stale and stagnant. And that's not the case. Our faith is alive and it's moving. Where can you use your creativity and your gifts to do for your fellow human beings? How can we as a church live out the gospel so that we know that we're not only hearers, but a people of action? How can we persist in loving action? That is the question for us this day. This ends this morning's word. Thanks be to God. There is